Like I opened up with that band. We opened up for Roy Orbison.
Wow.
At some place, some concert ballroom type place near Boston. And I remember we played our set and everything like that. And then we got off the stage and Roy and the drummer and, we're waiting at the bottom of these steps behind the curtain, and he had his black glasses and everything like that. And he said, nice set, boys, nice set. Well, thanks, Roy. I mean, wow,
Something in the water taught me how to crawl. Something in the water taught me how to fall.
Welcome to another episode of Something in the Water. I'm Sean Clark, here with Dave Griffin, and we got our good buddy all the way from Cornwall, England, Ian Dunlop, finally here in the flesh. We've had an episode with you before.
And great to be here, of course, again.
On the phone, but yeah, great to be in person this time.
Now, how did you manage to get from Cornwall all the way over here? What? Why?
Submarine.
Why?
Why, how, where, and when.
Yeah.
The broomstick I didn't use. And it was, as usual, a long and excruciating trip that I would not recommend to anybody except young people. And I came over here, of course, because I was so magnanimously and generously welcome to play again at the Waycross GP guitar pull, which was this last weekend. Now, some of us have rested up and caught our breath from that event. Others haven't.
This guy running the whole thing.
Yeah.
Again, it was a great event. Some great people performing, and I enjoyed my performance and my Saturday night set. And I actually have to thank Dave for giving me a platform where I can do what I like to do and be myself and so on.
Mm-hmm. And just to clear it up for y'all, we're recording on the the week following the guitar pull, which was October 13th, and you're watching this about a month later. So we're gonna still talk about it though, and yeah, you and I first hooked up in 2007, I believe it was, on a little thing called MySpace on the computer. And you reached out to me because you'd seen this going on and in Waycross. And you live in Cornwall, England. And, of course, I knew who you were based on the history of Gram, And we talked back and two on MySpace, and finally it was decided, man, would you like to come over next year and be a part of this? At least bring your artwork over and, have at it and let people meet you and everything. And then it was decided somewhere along the line that you would also perform. And
2008.
I remember you having a little bit of, like, I don't know if it's been a long time, right, since you had performed.
Well, not really. I mean, it's not like I've ever really gone completely dormant.
Yeah.
But I switched a lot. I think probably just before I got in touch with you, or we got in touch with each other, I had been playing in a band that was not all that challenging. But the good thing about it was that I was in this band and we were playing, middle of the road type of gigs. But I was playing sax. And I liked it for that reason alone, because I was relearning for maybe the second or third time how to play the sax again. And that was fun. And I had started writing songs just prior to that, about when we first got in touch with each other. And then I came to the conclusion that, I'm writing songs, original songs. I got these ideas and everything, but I can't deliver them with a saxophone in my mouth. So I decided to pop up and pop out the sax and start play again a rhythm guitar where I could sing. And that, that's a sort of a different layout. So, yeah, I've always been doing one thing or another in music. How low I've sunk at times, I don't know if I really want to go into that. But that's part of the deal sometimes, isn't it?
Right.
If you want to play. And not just play in your living room or bedroom or in the kitchen or whatever. If you're going to go out and play in front of people, boy, you have, over the years, we have witnessed and visited some weird situations, definitely.
Well, it's challenging. That's what it is. It's a challenge to start festival gigs, as opposed to just a little bar down the road or something. It's a different kind of feel,
Well, it was a good one this last weekend. I mean, we're still under the influence of it in the aftermath of the festival, and there's going to be this funny time jump whenever this program goes out, when it's going to be quite a way after the event, and you will probably be more awake.
Yeah, hopefully in a month. Yeah, it was a fun time. We had a really good gathering of like-minded folks, very friendly, and because we missed the last 2 years of Gram guitar pull due to COVID, this was a real coming together, and a thankfulness out there of being able to do it once again.
I hardly did anything during COVID.
Yeah, you were
I mean,
stuck.
we had, in England where I live, even though I don't sound like it, but I'm, a lot of times, in fact, I played a gig on September 25th, an outdoor concert type of thing with several different acts in a municipal park. And after the show, some people came up and said, "Oh, we really enjoyed listening to you." And I said, "Well, thanks a lot. That's great." And they said, "You're not English. Where did you get that? Where did you get that accent?" I said, "I went to drama school for years to study that and learn that." Also, because I get fed up with, I've had that, if I had a nickel for every time somebody said that to me. Yeah. "Oh, I can tell you're not English. Are you Canadian or American?" I'd be rich if I had, so I get fed up with it and just make up any answers.
I heard you making up some answers.
Prior to that, I hardly played almost for the whole 2 years because the lockdowns were pretty intense.
Yeah.
And lots of venues just like, bam, locked the door. And,
Kept it
it
that
all
way for
just,
a long
it
time.
just all died a death. And so I was playing, I was writing some songs and doing home recording. And I finally put together a collection of songs that are on a CD, that had been sitting on the shelf for too long.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Which
was
a lot
sort
of
of
those were recorded here the last time
couple
you
of
were here.
the last couple. The last couple of songs on this were recorded here, and the studio and Justin, what an incredible job they did.
Justin Mercer, our guru at the board during all the podcasts, also turns this place into a recording studio at times, and did so with Ian the last time he was over here, about 2019. And we recorded some tracks, which is another aspect of your trip over here that we all get off on, is not only do you play the festival, then we've got time after the festival that we can hunker down and write some songs together and hopefully record them as well. That's something that we all look forward to.
We've generally have written several songs, but it actually mounts up to dozens
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, you definitely bring the creative force when you come to town.
It's probably desperation
No, I mean it's
that I'm living like sort of in like exile, and it's so great to be in touch with people who are tapped into the American root music.
well, I mean, when you're not here, I mean, creativity comes and goes, But when you're coming, it's like I gear up
Yeah,
my
we
mind.
kind of rise to the occasion.
I'm like,
we try to.
Ian's coming to town.
Yeah.
I better get to.
And you do usually bring in several ideas that you've already got. You've got a title or a verse or something, like this one's about Jack Kerouac.
I do have a couple.
Yeah.
I do have a couple of ideas with me. Yeah. So maybe we better make a date.
Yep. We're looking forward to wrapping our heads around some songwriting too. So you were talking about shifting gears and dropping the saxophone and picking the guitar back up again.
Yeah.
When you first started coming over here. Beyond that, in the past, what type of music did you play back then?
Well, I started on the saxophone, real a long time ago. So late 50s. I don't know, maybe 58, 50, something, like that. I was maybe 13 or something like that, and somebody lent me a saxophone, an alto sax, and I had a friend, and we were getting together, and he had a K F-hole acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I'm talking about. And we were listening to records, and we were playing a record on a 45 with a big central hole in it on the thing, and we were playing along with this record. And I can't remember what the band was, but in the 50s, there were loads and loads of instrumentals.
Right.
Just that very a big percentage of pop music was like instrumentals, you know. Anyway, we are playing along with a song called Bullwhip Rock. And basically, it was like a lot of stuff from that era. Like that. And we were playing along. We figured out what key it was in, and I was tooting away on the saxophone and everything like that. And the record stopped. It came to the end. And we kept playing. We kept playing, and it was like, wow, we're alive. Wow, this is what it's all about.
It's like when you're learning to ride a bike and
Exactly.
your dad lets go
and
of the
that
seat.
was it. And we didn't know whether, should I stop or should you stop, or what's going to happen if we stop? Let's hope we can keep going with this. At any rate, that was the beginning of our band.
Yeah.
And it was a little band, and we played. And then another friend came along and he wanted to join in, and he thought that he could play some sort of percussion in this. So what he got was off the bicycle grips of like a tricycle or something like that. There was those rubber things that fit your hand. He got one on each finger, like that, and a bucket. And he started playing on the bucket.
That's an original
with these
drum
bicycle handles.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's how we started. Well, I named that band the Refugees, and we developed in a way. I actually got a better saxophone. My mom was always trying to encourage the children, my siblings and I, to play music. Of course, she was more, classical and semi-trained and could, play, and read complex music and everything like that. And of course, particularly me and my buddies, we were into this just like it's off the top of your head, it's out of your heart. It's simple, it's three chords.
We don't need no stinking theory.
And we went on, and my friend got an electric guitar, and I think he built an amplifier from sort of like Radio Shack kit or something like that, and a speaker cabinet. And the drummer got an actual old drum kit, and we kept playing. And then I think our first gig was in 1959, and we played, and we went on and on like that. The Refugees, and we were in New England, Massachusetts, Boston general area like that. And by the time we were in high school, we were playing lots and lots of like college gigs.
Wow.
Frat parties, fraternity houses, and that area, the density of fraternities and universities and colleges up there, we were working like every weekend playing at a college. And we were high school kids, though. Yeah. And, excuse me, and I suppose some of the highlights of that band, because we weren't trying to get anywhere. We didn't know anything about getting anywhere. It was all just about getting up. I mean, for a long time, we didn't have a microphone. I just sang loud. And eventually we did, I guess, have some little tiny, like 1 amp with a mic going into it. That was a PA, And, but like towards the end of that band, 63, like when I was a senior, in high school, 63, 64, something like that, when I was first year at college at art school. We played some really memorable, privileged gigs. Like I opened up with that band. We opened up for Roy Orbison.
Wow.
At some place, some concert ballroom type place near Boston. And I remember we played our set and everything like that. And then we got off the stage, and Roy and the drummer and were waiting at the bottom of these steps behind the curtain, and he had his black glasses and everything like that. And he said, "Not set, boys, not set." Well, thanks, Roy. I mean, wow, And I think another time we opened up for the Shirelles at I think it was Brown University, Providence, and then later in 2010, I went down and played a festival in New Orleans called the Ponderosa Stomp, and it's a fantastic festival put together by a guy down there. Certainly annually, but what he gets is all these people who are, a lot of them are, they're known, but they're not huge. One of the people who played there that year was a guy called Red Simpson. You ever heard of him?
I have.
You have?
Yeah.
Well, okay, but he wrote many of the truck driving country songs, right? And I was on a bus with a limo or a shuttle bus or something like that from the hotel where a lot of the performers were staying to the venue, and this guy Red Simpson was on there. He was quite an elderly man at the time, and I went up to him. I said, "Red, it's a privilege to meet you. This band I was in, we were playing a lot of your songs, and man, did we get kicked out of a lot of clubs in New York, right?" And any rate, there were lots and lots of wonderful people playing at this Ponderosa Stomp, and one of them was, I was in a backstage green room, having some refreshments, and somebody was talking to a woman who they mentioned her name. Well, and I went up and and introduced myself, and her name was Lala Brooks. Now, she was in the Crystals, that girl group, that Phil Spector girl group. And I went over to her and I said, it's a pleasure to meet you. I was in a band and we opened up for you in, I think, again, it was Boston University or Brown or something like that, on a night when you were performing there on some big homecoming weekend or something like that. And she said, I was just 15 then, and I had to have a guardian. But it was looking back now, like, wow. Of course, there really weren't. The whole music scene wasn't saturated with bands way back then. This is just around almost when Beatles emerged,
Right.
And so, your chances of getting a spot somewhere were a lot better.
Right.
Yeah.
That had to be just fascinating. It's almost like an infancy of music that was going on, brought on by the genesis of rock and roll. And by 63 and 62 and 63, rock and roll was considered to be dead, by the powers that be and everything. They thought they had killed it off.
Yeah.
Buddy Holly was had died in a plane crash. Elvis had been shipped off to Germany.
Yeah.
Jerry Lee had screwed up by marrying his cousin. And who else was left? I think they were the three. And so they just figured. And what replaced all that was these vanilla...
And Frankie Avalon and right?
Monosyllabic.
Yeah, and even Pat Boone had bigger hits covering Fat Stoner records and stuff like that. You know, I mean, it was right after what I'm talking about. Is like soon after that, like having opened up for Roy Orbison and everything. You know, maybe 6 months later is when I met Gram. In Cambridge, and you know, and then that was another shift again.
Yeah. That yielded the International Submarine Band, which Ian was the bass player, and that's another part of history. You write about a lot of that in that book down there. Well, not so much. Does it? It is historical.
Let's see if we can pick it up from the floor.
Doesn't that start right around the beginning of y'all's meeting?
Yeah. It covers. Well, it was just covering that period, really, of my involvement with Gram and how things developed and everything. I mean, one of the first things that happened to me was that right around that period, my lovely instrument, the saxophone, became like cholera.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the saxophone just like that, you know? And that's when I decided that I had better switch over to something else, and I started playing the bass guitar.
Mm-hmm.
I rented from a music shop. I rented I think it was a Dan Electro or something like that, to try to get a hold on it. But it was this whole shift, complete shift, you know. That was really the end of Johnny and the Hurricanes and that type of music.
That was that book is called Breakfast in Nudie Suits.
Oh, yeah,
Nudie, Nudie.
Yep.
Yeah. Famed.
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's about that, and it is a first-hand account of, you know, what we did and what we were trying to do, what Gram's, you know, his sort of steps towards country, and, you know, how we drifted in that direction and how difficult it was, and what the opposition was like. Opposition, I mean, by the predominant, you know, taste of the time, which was not roots and Americana and country. No way. Jose.
Even though the Beatles injected Act Naturally, the song that Buck Owens did.
Yeah.
They injected that into, and they were big fans of country music. You know, they grew up listening to a lot of American country artists, as well as the Motown and the R&B.
I think a lot of people did, but a lot of people were pretty shy about admitting it.
Yeah.
Because it had a connotation that was the wrong thing, you know, country. Because
it wasn't cool.
It was like
rock and roll, was cool.
R&B that was more happening, you know.
Here's a picture of Ian with the International Submarine Band.
Yeah.
Well, it's there we go. There's
that was,
Gram on the left, Ian next to him with the bass. That's Mickey
Garvin,
Garvin and John Nuis on the right.
That's right.
So that was probably about 65, I guess.
That was early 66.
66.
When we actually got a record deal with Columbia Records.
Mm-hmm. Looks like y'all are in a studio. Mm-hmm. Looks like you're inside a studio.
We were in a big studio, Studio B, New York, Columbia Records, yeah. Mm-hmm. It was, I don't know, it's very stiff. I mean, we look all that happy right there, but it wasn't all that wonderful. They were actually, the people in the studio were actually wearing ankle-length white coats. like in a science lab.
Wow.
Right? And anyway, and they were like, looking at the control panel and saying, "Oh, no, can't you play quieter than that, please? Keep it down." Oh, that almost went into the red.
Yeah.
So it was so, after so many of those, it tends to squelch. It tends to crush and stop you and make you get more withdrawn.
Yeah.
But there was one at that session. There was like a song that people thought were really promising. That was promising, of like a rock type, pop rock type of song that was going to be released as a side and everything. But it was it's sort of an odd mix of rhythms and stuff like that. At any rate, strangely enough, the B side of it actually got picked up by a few DJs. They just started playing the B side, and that was that song "One Day Week" that we opened our set with last weekend. Mm-hmm. A good little innocent up tempo.
That's a good one.
Country rocker type of feeling,
Yeah, man.
The name of the Bullwhip Rock.
Bullwhip Rock.
I looked it up. It's the Cyclones.
The Cyclones.
Yeah.
That is what they were. Perfect.
Yeah, I was just going to
You
throw that out
found that. I see.
Yeah, I just Googled.
Wow.
So, folks, y'all can pick up that book, Breakfast in Nudie Suits by Ian Dunlop.
There you go.
Can pick it up online and shop at Amazon, wherever. And it's very interesting read. I mean, from a man who was right there in the makings of Americana, country rock or whatever you call it, back in the late 60s and early 70s.
Yeah, a lot of it's also about America in general at the time.
Right.
That's what it turned into eventually. It sort of turned into that because it turns into a transcontinental road trip going across America and meeting people and stopping here and there and stuff like that. And also a lot of stuff about, there's a lot of, Hollywood people in it. Who, because we were living when we were out in L.A., we were living in Laurel Canyon, which was, has become more famous now as
The breeding ground.
a place, a crucible or whatever of music creativity. Yeah.
And the end of the book kind of has you just getting the heck out of the craziness and smog and all that comes with Hollywood and driving cross country back home. So what happened after that?
Well, the thing about driving back home is an illusion, because when you leave home in back of you, where you've left it, it goes and evaporates. And you can't ever really go home again, can you?
That's what.
Because home is the past. Home is a place in the past. And a lot of things about that security of the past, and boy, those were the days, and boy, that's what we need again. We need our society to be like it was in the past and everything. No, it's gone. There's no way around it. I might play a song later on my guitar that sort of illustrates some of that about the past and everything like that. But we'll see. Second half, maybe.
Okay.
So this will keep you glued to your screens. Right. Come back for the second half. And I actually, at that time, that, you mentioned that, I actually had an opportunity to go and visit England, where my parents were from, and actually I was from as an infant. I was actually born in England, and my parents left England and came to America. And I went there, and I left L.A. and I left America eventually, because a lot of people don't quite remember that what everybody thinks of about the 60s and the late 60s is like Monterey, peace and love. Yeah, groovy, baby. That was that. That's the 60s. But no, it wasn't. It was assassinations. It was Black Panthers. It was like fires, cities burning down. It was like sort of urban hippies being afraid to go into the country, the rural America. It was strife and stress and everything. And actually, I went to England, and I was really sort of relieved to get away from all of that stuff. And I went there, and I enrolled in a real small art school, very small painting, and stayed there. And then I stayed there a bit longer, and then I stayed there a bit too long. And it was just one of those choices. I made this choice that was under the influence of youth and romance. Two very dangerous substances to mix.
Who was she? So you already was into art though before you went to art school, right?
Well, I went to art school in after high school,
Okay.
like college sort of level,
You just
and
kicked
to
it,
a very
carried it
exciting,
on.
a very very exciting art institution called Rhode Island School of Design. Quite renowned institution, and it was full of wow. The people there, and I was pretty much a, sort of country boy compared to them.
Uh-huh.
Most of them were from New York and Connecticut, and some of them were already seeing therapists, and they were a whole different world from me. I was like a small town high school kid, listening to the Beach Boys, and they were all real sophisticated people, but a lot of real terrific creativity happening there as well. It was, made a big impact on me. Yeah.
I love your art. I've got several pieces, prints, or
It's very original.
yeah.
Very original.
And you sold quite a bit out at the festival this weekend, or a lot of people came up and was.
Yeah, we showed some artwork and sold quite a bit of artwork to people at giveaway prices. Cheap.
That's Waycross
Man.
prices.
But the thing about it, I mean, actually, this is good that happened. A little while ago, I got in touch with the Country Music Hall of Fame and Museum in Nashville, and it's a fantastic institution. Absolutely wonderful. The shows they put on there, the detail, the background, all of the specialists working in the other room behind the scenes, like restoring costumes and instruments and cataloging records and tapes. It's an amazing thing. It's sort of like the Smithsonian of country music. It's unbelievable. At any rate, so I was in talking to them, one of the directors, on the phone with him a few times, and I said, listen, I got some stuff that would be really suitable, because they've got an exhibit right now called The Western Edge, and it's about focusing on the formative years of country rock in L.A., right? So, of course, that's in all of the early country rock bands and the Submarine Band and the Burritos and all of that, and Gram, and I said, I've got some things here that I think you'd be very interested in. I sent him some pictures, and he said, wow, I'd love those. So I sent him a couple of things for the exhibit. And they're in the exhibit now. In fact, now I've decided that I'm going to give them these objects to them, donate them permanently. Like, don't send them back, okay? I don't want them back. When eventually you get, at my age, you get like, you got too much stuff. And if you can get things into a place where they're going to be looked after and respected, and other people are going to see them and stuff like that, great.
That's a good thing.
That's where it's going to go. Now, I've also donated to them, to the Country Music Hall of Fame and Museum, several of my artworks, like original first ones, they're all sort of relative to that period and Gram and everything like that, And I said, well, they might be interesting for somebody who's doing research one day in the future. We don't know, right? Mm-hmm. Or they might do a show in the future of like, Southeast songwriters or, alternative country songwriters or something like that. And they might be pertinent to an exhibit like that. So I sent them several of my artworks last week, and great. They're going to a wonderful home. Mm-hmm. What could be better than that?
That's great, man.
Yeah.
It's very exciting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. They've come to where they should have been, finally. Yeah.
That's awesome. Another thing you sent, I don't know if you want to talk about it, but the acetate.
About that's one of the items I donated.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was an acetate, which used to be a method of if the producer or the artist wanted to get an idea of a recording of what happened at the session they just did. Mm-hmm. They would knock out an acetate, and the acetate was cut just like way back, like in the 30s or 40s, with a needle, like scraping a groove on a plain piece of vinyl, acid, right? Mm-hmm. Just like, and that's what cutting a disc means.
Direct from...
Direct, absolutely direct. And so, yeah. It's no pressing like that, a mold, like the way vinyl's printed. And
you can take that home and listen to it.
Exactly. And they probably wouldn't play many times.
Right.
And then, and also, there might only be one or two in the whole world.
Yeah.
So it was a very, very rare thing, and it was an acetate of luxury liner.
Wow. That's pretty amazing.
From further on in 1967, from the LHI Lee Hazelwood sessions in LA. Yeah.
Cool.
And it was in my attic.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe that's a safe enough place, but who's up in my attic? Spiders, mice, bats. I have bats up in my attic sometimes. They don't listen to it. They don't know how to run a turntable, do they? So I just thought, what? I mean, come on. And send it to them. But then it was only last week here, just very recently that I decided I don't want them back. I want them to keep them in Nashville. The other thing was that I gave to them was a sort of graphics. It was like a sketch for the title work that I did for the International Submarine Band Lee Hazelwood LP, Safe at Home. Mm-hmm. So there was the original trial sketch for that, which I gave them.
Who did the actual picture, portrait on the front?
I don't know. I don't know. Nobody I know.
A lot of people are confused when you say, Ian Dunlop did the art.
Yeah, I only did that sort of cartoony title piece.
Yeah, International Submarine Band text across the top. But you can see it's filled in with your style that still exists today. I think you even had it way back then.
Yeah. I mean, I think. Yeah,
and you still had that original art that you sent.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's the one.
Yeah. And of course, everybody knows the story of Y'all, the band name, you got the
$5.
talking about talking about the episode of Our Gang, or the
You know
Young
what?
Rascals, or Little Rascals.
This is a similar subject, but this last weekend, somebody came up to me with a vinyl 12-inch of my solo Ian and the Muscle Tones LP for me to sign.
Wow.
Damn.
I thought, where did you ever find that? Because that was pretty small pressing.
Yeah.
You know?
80s.
From
The
1980?
80s.
Oh,
Who was that? Do you remember?
actually, it was a musician, one of the people who performed at the festival, David Cry.
Oh, yeah,
He
yeah.
found it
Okay.
somewhere, some record collector's place or something like that. And, and he wanted me to sign it. And
About
I
that.
did.
That's cool.
And that one was a project that I did. I don't know if we're departing too much from the train of thought. Are we here or not?
No, we're
no,
just-
we're not.
just
We're
moving in a-
okay. And that one was like
Linear
I
direction.
got an offer in right at the end of the 70s to do a recording project from an indie company based in Milan, Italy, right? And it was a strange label. They had some weird people on this label. I know Peter Rowan was on the label.
Cool.
I think Barry Melton. He's
Melton.
Country Joe,
Oh, okay.
Oh, really?
right? Country Joe and the Fish.
Fish, yeah.
Well, I think his real name was Barry Melton.
Gotcha.
I think he was on that label. Me, another couple of people. They had a weird, incoming in that one. Any rate, and we did. It was pretty interesting. We do have a track here of that. Would you like to hear one thing from it?
Let's
Yeah.
hear it.
Let's do it.
And it was like something like, I had in the most of the 70s, I really dropped out. And I don't know much about 70s music at all. And at the end of the 70s, I got quite excited by what was going on in the UK, in England, because it was lots of indie and lots of bizarre stuff that was sort of post-punk and a lot of very interesting record labels that were doing very, not groundbreaking, but very different stuff, It was sort of the opposite of maybe L.A., and anyway, so I was sort of influenced by what was going on in Britain at the time.
Cool. And this is Ian and the Muscle Tones
That's it.
from the early 80s.
Well, there's a state line, you know where to live. A red line, so you won't over it. A borderline, if you wanna come across. A hotline, talk to the boss. A Mason-Dixon line, for the Yank. Reception line, when you gotta say thank you. A punchline when you try to make a joke. Standing in the bread line when you're broke. Baby, don't step over the line. Baby, don't step over the line.
That's you on lead vocals.
Yeah. Okay. You get the idea.
No, I want to hear some more.
No. Come on.
Please.
You can. I'll give you a copy. You can play it later. Okay. But you know, it's just like gives you an idea about like. So I wrote everything, and I had a pretty good band at the time, and I had thought really about like you have a lot of guests on this podcast, and usually they are quite full of their achievements and what they've gotten done and how far they've climbed up and stuff like that. Really, my thing should be like, listen to me, folks. The person who's taken every wrong step and done everything wrong. Okay? So that was a great project, and it excited me and everything like that. And after it was released and everything like that, it was a very small company. It's a problem. Yeah. But, you know, I had the chance to record, and they, you know, paid for the recordings and everything like that. And we did a few gigs in Britain, a couple of little television shows and stuff like that. And at any rate, but then it got picked up by this guy, because the whole broadcasting thing in England is very, very different. It's very, very government controlled. And it's got this major one big network, BBC, right? Mm-hmm. And it's subsidized, and it's national, small country, but national. Anyway, but the main guy at the time in the 70s and 80s and was this guy called John Peel, and John Peel was set the standard of what was hip. And he broke people introduced onto the airwaves. He was the first guy, I think, ever to play Bowie. He was the first guy to play Mark Boland. Mm-hmm. And then later on, and then all of the various loads of punk acts and things like that. And then other people probably like the Smiths. I mean, he was singularly responsible for the Smiths making and stuff. At any rate, John Peel started playing my record. Wow. I couldn't believe it. Unbelievable, because, you know, I didn't fit within that mold or anything like that. But so it turns out this is the main outlet, his night show, probably 10 to 12, 5 nights a week or something, the John Peel Show. And he was so laid back and eccentric and weird and played just, you know, disturbing music and good music and unusual music. You know, so he was playing this LP, and it turns out that the parent company had found these little tiny distribution places, and I think in Britain it was this one little company called Projection Records, and I don't know if they were specialists in folk, and so this label Appaloosa that I was on, they had sent 10 copies.
That was it. 10.
Wow. For the whole of the country. 10 copies.
Wow.
Same thing. In America, I think Rounder distributed them. Rounder got sent 10 copies.
Wow.
So, you know, it was just like...
So does David Cry have one of the 10?
Well, you know, maybe. Any rate, it was just like, you know, if I get... What have my royalties been? 10%?
Yeah.
15?
Limited.
Something like that.
So you could have really made it. You could have really had something there if your if the record label would have
15% of the sale of 10 LPs.
Yeah, if that had pushed it.
it with John Peel playing it, and then
Yeah.
Dang.
Any rate, that's the breaks.
Yeah.
That's what happens sometimes. And
What say we get you hooked up to a guitar and come back and you can play us an original, a classic
we'll
Ian
do
Dunlop original. Mm-hmm. We'll be right back, folks, with some more Ian Dunlop.
Something in my brain won't let me stray. Something in my veins gonna find its way. Something in the water taught me how to pray. When the cold black water finds its way into your veins, you'll never be the same.
Well, we're back with our guest Ian Dunlop and guitar. He's going to play us. What are you going to play us?
well, I was going to pick up on one of our themes that we had crossed over in discussion, rhetorical and philosophical subjects that we've touched on. Mm-hmm. Because how can we go through life without touching on those things? How can we not make, it's like, what I'm searching for meaning. And one of them was that we talked about in the first half was about the past. Mm. And the past is really gone, and people want to revisit it and so on, right? Mm-hmm. And because the past is, what a place, maybe way in the future, if there is a future, like that would be the number one holiday destination.
The past.
If you could go to the travel agent and say, I want to be, my wife and I, we're thinking about, we'd really like to go and visit 1956. Wow, would it be popular? Now, there are, of course, God love you, Americans, but there's always been, over the years, pretty much, there was a whole lot of it when I lived in L.A., of UFO, flying saucer, mythology, and fanatics and everything like that about people, they're up there, and one took off the other day from out in back of that orange grove out in Pasadena, they're all over the place. And sometimes I thought, maybe it is the future. And maybe it is those tourists from the future
coming back.
Oh, I've heard about L.A. in the 60s. Yeah. Can we go there? We got a special package deal. Let's go in there next week on our time-traveling spaceship,
Right.
So that could be an explanation to UFOs.
And they
it's
get
the
out.
Future.
They get out and actually walk around amongst us, right?
Well, I can't tell about the thing. So anyway, this is a song that I wrote about the golden thing. See, everyone remembers the golden memories of the past. It isn't the bad stuff,
It's all good.
like in cars were so great. Those 50s cars. Weren't they absolutely, beautiful? And man, that's when Detroit knew what it was doing and everything like that. Of course, what people forget is in the mid 50s to later 50s, the actual death toll on American roads was over 50,000 fatalities a year. There were no seatbelts.
Yeah.
So organ transplants. No problem. Of course, they probably weren't so good at that technology in those days. When they had all of those bodies strewn all over the place. They, the liver transplant and the heart surgery and everything like that was still in the future. Now we got airbags, we got double seatbelt crossing, everything like that. Nobody,
You can't even
so
get a
there's a
kidney.
shortage. They have to pilfer organs from Bangladesh.
Well, that dude didn't die in that?
Right. So that brings me to my next song. And this is a song that I wrote, and it was, sort of my memories in a way, but, it's sort of generic about looking back on, I'm prejudiced because of my age and everything like that, at the 50s. And they were a wonderful thing. It was that terrific American post-war period of just unbridled growth and prosperity, and all of those factories that were making tanks and howitzers and military equipment all switched over to making TVs and cheap freezers and like all of the consumer products and everything in America was so cheap compared to the rest of the world standard, and the wage earnings and the high standard of living and everything like that. And there was a president that everybody could trust. General Eisenhower.
Yeah.
That was the era. That was the golden era. Even though Nixon was kicking around in the backyard, the office or something like that, it was still Ike. Good old reliable General Eisenhower. And the only problem was his missus was a bit of a dipsy. And he played too much golf. But otherwise, straight up, you couldn't ask for a better person, ever. So, and of course, I was a child. I actually saw Eisenhower.
Did you?
In 52. And our little elementary school class got marched downtown to look at Ike, who was coming on a train and standing on that back platform of a train, and he stopped on a bridge over the town center, or, by this little town center, and made a speech. Of course, I don't think there was any PA, but you could see a guy in a big double-breasted overcoat, thick and everything, with a bald head. Hey, that's him. And it was so exciting.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the campaign slogan was
I like Ike.
I like Ike. And I thought, yeah. Been watching television, don't want no communism. The easy money's dead, I'm better off in bed. Wave a banner, carry a torch. Rock and roll has got a divorce. The past was gross, but the future's looking grim. In God we trust, I better vote for him. I like Ike. I like Ike. I like Ike. I like Ike. Okay, that's a little bit. That's just a taste of it. And I haven't played that in years, but it was on the subject. And the other verses go on to talk about things like, who the hell's this Ayatollah guy? We never had to worry about smog and pollution. never heard about no social revolution. All the ladies knew their place. At any rate, it was, a cynical look at that period. Now, okay, this is what went wrong. I got a pretty good recording of that. It's just like, has that slightly post-punk feel. I recorded it in 80, maybe, 1980. And I sent a few copies out to people. And one of the few contacts I had in America was a guy in Nashville. I sent him a copy of the record, a single. The idea was pretty good, pretty catchy, novelty type of thing about it, And I got a telegram from this guy. Ian, thank you for that record. Call me collect immediately. And it was signed John Lomax III.
Wow.
The grandson or son of John Lomax.
The field recording.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was a Nashville producer who was the first person to sign Steve Earle.
Wow.
At the time, though, 1980, I had we had to do the school run. And the children had to get to school.
Oh, yeah.
I had a life.
Your personal life.
I had a wife.
Kicking.
I had all of that stuff. I couldn't go flitting off to no Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so I never answered that call.
Oh.
Well, there we are. I told you this was a lesson about what not to do in life.
No, I don't think that's...
Do you answer the call or don't you?
When
are
you're,
you able to answer the call sometimes?
What if you...
Sometimes our lives are just,
But what if you had at least called him and told him all that, and he could have suggested an alternative?
When they open up that tourism to 1980, I'll go back and I'll take your advice. Call up John Lomax.
Ticket to 1980, please.
Oh, well. Now, I wanted to do a song here, but I have a little bit of tuning problems.
It's called South Georgia Humanity.
And again, I'm going to do another. Yeah, so this is another. Is it a novelty song? Is it the truth? Who knows? And it's a song that I wrote in Waycross on one trip to America, and I was amazed at how I was with some friends and we were discussing something, and they said, I said, yeah, I know the population of Florida is huge now. I know it's at least 17 million, maybe 20 million now. I remember when it hit 17 million, that was several years ago. Oh, well, when we get home, we'll Google it. Right? And then there was something else about talking about something else. And well, we'll Google that when we get home. And I just realized how much nobody had a memory anymore. And we're just going to Google everything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The unknown can turn to a tempest as we choose between wrong and what's right. I have seen a new sight to make my request, and the truth comes in radiant light. The answer comes down from on high. Earthly life is fraught with confusion, and I don't know the day of the week. There is only one way to salvation, and the blessed assurance I see. I believe in the power of Gugle, and my faith will never be tried. When questions in life cause me such strife, the answer comes down from on high. When questions in life cause me such strife, the answer comes down from on high.
That was my best Calvary Baptist Church.
Well, thank you.
Choir voice.
Thank you, Dave.
We talked about that in the writing of that song. We compared our childhood beginnings in church services too, and they were very similar.
Well, I think, that's the thing again about the past.
Yeah.
That many of us share, right? Yeah. And there is that common denominator with the church background, no matter what faith or denomination or weirdness they are. I had a extremely weird faith background. Yeah.
What was it?
David Koresh and I were of the same church. Do you know who that is?
I think
you don't know who David Koresh is.
That's Waco.
Yeah.
Oh, the Waco guy.
Yeah.
That's right.
What's that?
Aren't I a perfect example of how things can turn for the good?
Compared to him, y'all were like Pancho and Lefty, yin and yang.
Now, also, that's another thing that Gram and I shared very much, of having indoctrination religious, or being brought up within the Christian faith and Bible belting. I mean, or Bible punching. I don't know what's the right word. I forget. But being inculcated with old time religion, and it has a way of meeting within music, and all of that stuff makes a lot more sense. And we felt that when we sang gospel influenced country stuff in the Submarine Band, that we had a footing on that little platform to understand it and do it properly.
Yeah.
We both had in our childhood little black Bibles with our names lettered on the front cover,
That's
right? You did too.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we all did, you know. Now, we, and it's just part of what we are, whether we're backsliders or deniers, or that it doesn't make any difference. You know, we were all exposed to it, and it's in
Ingrained,
there.
yeah.
And, it's not going to,
use
it's
a
never
lot
done
of,
me a lot of harm.
I use a lot of religious or biblical reference
Yeah.
in songwriting. Not every song, but occasional, there'll be just devil and the sin and the just references, but come straight out of what I grew up with,
Yeah.
Baptist. And Gram was Episcopal, and then whatever yours was
Whatever cult you were in.
Yeah.
well, they all are.
What was it?
They all tend to mirror cults. Really, they do. Some of them are a lot further out than others, but there's that feeling.
Yeah. And progressively getting further out.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's
They're getting so far out now that they're reining them back in.
Yeah,
saying, "No,
yeah.
You
And of
can't
course
do that
it's
to little
because
boys
of
and
the-
girls.
It is because of the founding fathers in America made an adamant. I don't know if it's in the Constitution or something. I don't really know, but about the secularization about the church and state must be independent and separate. Mm-hmm. Where many other countries, like even quite an irreligious country like Britain, where the percentage of people are actually churchgoers is like tiny, the Anglican Church is still the official, like the new king. Mm-hmm. The late Elizabeth was the head of the Anglican Church. Mm-hmm. It was bound up, state and church
Still
together.
Not the separation there.
Yeah, and because they're totally separate here, a lot of those sheep have jumped out of the fold, haven't they?
You got some right-wing politicians actually advocating for.
They're trying to bring it back together.
Well, they're such
prayer
dumbasses.
Right?
They're such illiterates.
Yeah,
and not well read at all. They're actually saying that's the way it was supposed to be in the Constitution or in the original forming of this country.
No, but they
didn't read
all
their
of
history
those
right.
guys, all Thomas Jefferson and all that bunch were adamant about there's a definite
keep
big
them apart.
concrete wall between them. Now, let me ask you a question, Dave. Now you're had a cessation of because of COVID, of course, of the guitar pull,
Right.
and that was probably hard on you.
Yeah, I mean, it was a break. It was difficult not doing something that you counted on doing, every year for the past 20-something years. But at the same time, you realize that there's nothing you can do about it. But we actually did the virtual, where we accepted videos
of course,
from our entertainers, and we sat right here, me and Sean and Justin, and put it on, had a virtual guitar pull. Then we had to do it in 2021 as well due to COVID. But it was a
good effort.
It was just an acceptance.
It doesn't quite satisfy the parts that other festivals can't reach.
Yeah. And given this weekend was our first time back in 2 years, or since 2019, it felt extra good.
Yeah, it did.
It did feel extra good.
I think if you had a satisfaction quotient test on attendees of this weekend's event, I would have thought the ratings would be way
They
up
were,
towards
yeah.
the top.
Yeah, all
It was worth the trip. I'm glad I bought the ticket. I'm glad I traveled. Blah, 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 all
well,
of that.
you put
know.
on an excellent show, and which I always had faith you would. And from the other artists who performed, they were very emotional about it too, of getting back together
Yeah.
for the first time in 3 years. And,
Yeah.
and met a lot of people out there who came for the first time, and some of those, it's our first time, and we'll be back and bringing more.
That's
so
good, isn't it? Yeah.
that's a good feeling as well.
And now, are you being lobbied by artists who are looking for a 2023 spot?
Well, that's another, and the Gram Parsons guitar pool is a horse of a different color. It's the one festival that we don't go out actively looking for new entertainers. We are of the mindset with this that everybody who has been with us, some from the very beginning, still to this day, some who came on board a little later on, but the veteran performers, the backbone of the festival, the non-headliner acts, they have been grandfathered in to this festival. We give them first and foremost choice. Now, sometimes some of them, like this past weekend, Donna Frost, who is one of our annual performers from Nashville, she got in a car wreck and she didn't have a rental car available to her when she needed it. So she had to give up her spot, but we had somebody local take it over, to Dylan and Ryan Crosby and Ashton Heron, called the Crosby Gospel Experience. And they did songs ranging from Buck Owens, Heart, Don't Let Her Know. The one that you did on the virtual festival.
Yep.
And
I sent this to Justin. Is that why you pulled it up?
this is a little snippet of
This is
of
pretty cool.
Ian's set.
Paul Campbell
Videoed by our good friend from Mobile, Alabama, Paul Campbell and Laureen Flanders. There's your volume on the. There you go.
Sound isn't too bad.
This is Fishin For Wishes, an original by Sean and Ian. That's Ian, backed by the Pine Box Dwellers.
Like two stray dogs on the side of the road, sniffing around with nowhere to go, sniffing at a carcass that's 3 days old. We called the helpline, but they put us on hold. They're pointing fingers of blame. They won't give us no quota. Can't wash off this shame in cold, muddy water.
That's Jody singing into the harmonica mic with the delay on it.
I've been lost.
He was doing that.
I thought it was Paul and them on the board.
I think they were doing it too. But
I'm casting my line in the pool of desire, hoping to hook an end to these trials. Love and sit here to catch some big fish. Don't leave us alone.
knew this song a bit better. So he would film. I was worried it was going to be too cold that night. It wasn't that cold when we played, was it?
No. Good.
Well, very good.
Yeah.
Nice to have it look back and see that we did a pretty good show. And
Yeah.
kept those folks entertained for a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm hoping now, tomorrow, we're going to be filming. I've one of the things during the COVID lockdown period that I enjoyed, one of the highlights almost, was finishing up a lot of music videos for the songs on this CD.
Mm-hmm.
Now, an excellent winter project, for rainy days, cold days, dark nights, all of that. And I over the last couple of days, I was shooting some footage out in Gainesville, near to Gainesville, up High Springs. In fact, I went past one of your venues up there the other day.
Yeah, High Springs Brewing Company.
Yeah, we were up just above High Springs on a beautiful, crystal clear river up there called the Santa Fe River. And it's the upper reaches of the Suwannee. Eventually goes into the Suwannee River, okay? And I was out with the video camera there filming because I've got one song, actually, that Sean and I wrote about, called Suwannee River Reptiles. And so it's all about imagery of like being on that river and the overall feeling that I got of absolute silence and peace. And it was like the idea is like my whole screwed up, emotional, turbulent brain got slowed down like the cold-blooded reptiles on the river, where their heartbeat goes down and they get quieter and quieter and quieter. Okay, that isn't the best formula for becoming a billionaire. We know that. But it's also very, very, it's something you can't put a price on, of being quiet and relaxed. It's heaven. Any rate, so I was out there filming for that to knit together a video, and we're hoping tomorrow that we're going to shoot some more footage for a video for that Fishin For Wishes song.
Cool.
Of two stray dogs on the side of the road sniffing at a carcass that's 3 days old. I don't know who they're going to get to do that part.
I'm sure you could probably run up on that scene pretty easily in South Georgia.
And that will be great if we're planning on doing that tomorrow.
Cool.
Connor,
Yeah.
Sean, and me.
Well,
You're too old.
Yeah, I'm not interested. I'm gonna be sleeping again.
So we got, I have had quite a lot of interest in the videos that I've made, of course, they're all without a record deal, without a budget. It's all done on a shoestring, on a cheap little camera and stuff, and then
But they're
stitched
great.
together.
The art and everything that comes through it is amazing.
But that's a challenge. But I've had a great response, and people who the hundreds of people who've seen them have been have enjoyed them very much and send me messages and, oh, Ian, please do more videos. Well, I am. I'm going to do some more videos while I still can, and while we've got the media and the music to work with.
They are very entertaining, and they're kind of like a lo-fi type deal, but they still come across with the sense of humor and everything.
Yeah.
I enjoy them. So back home, you've got daughters and grandchildren.
Yes, I certainly do.
And they play, your grandson plays football, the real football.
Yeah, soccer football. Yeah. My grandson is, in fact, I had a message. My grandson's 11. I can't recommend it enough to spend time with grandchildren. Try to get along with them. Always keep the door open. Be their friend. And several years ago, when the first grandchild came along, as they say, was my grandson called Stellan, and I was telling people, there is nothing so good as getting down on your hands and knees with a dinky toy tractor and a kid going, yeah, that's one of the answers to life.
It is.
Forget your troubles, man. Get down on the rug and play cars with kids. And I have 2 granddaughters. They're little kids, but my grandson is becoming quite a player in football, soccer.
Yeah.
And I had a message from my daughter over last week that he was in a game against another school or something like that, and was selected man of the match.
All right.
Like MVP, that sort of means, right?
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. The kids like singing with me.
Mm-hmm.
If I bring the guitar and go over with them, and one of the songs that I sing a lot of rock and roll. They like that. Anything like, blue suede shoes and that type of thing. But there's another oldie, and do you remember that one, Would You Like to Swing on a Star?
It's from the 30s or so.
Yeah. It's a great song. The kids, Would You Like to Swing on a Star? Mm-hmm. Carry moonbeams home in a jar and be better off than you are? Or would you rather be a pig? Well, a pig is an animal with dirt on his face. His shoes are a terrible disgrace. It's great. It's great teaching them a few lyrics and singing along with them. Yeah, it's been good. None of them have really clicked with picking up an instrument and playing. And I think, in my experience, what it takes, there are like amazing musicians, too many of them, and they're really good, and they're sort of a pain in the butt. There's so many of them, right? But, you know, and what's it? Mozart, what was he doing at the age of 7? You know, he had already written all sorts of things, and his parents were taking him around like they do with those beauty pageant little kids, you know, taking him all over Europe, doing concerts and everything like that. But I found it's like when we were talking earlier, my bullwhip rock experience with a friend. It's usually, it happens when you get a group of your peers along and you play together. That's how you get interested in music. Well, that was in my case, and many others like me.
Others, yeah.
I think it was the same with you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, me too.
Yeah.
It's like you get together with your young friends and you start, you know, taking those first few steps in music, and suddenly, hey, we're a band.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. That, you know, forming a band and having grandchildren. And I can relate to you about both of those things because I'm of age. And I knocked them down again. They're under the bass guitar now. Okay. And this just goes to
These are
prove
good
my
ones, Dave.
age.
That was a good bargain.
Dollar
A
Tree.
great selection.
Dollar Tree, $1. This is one of my tales of the week by Uncle Dave Griffin, and this one is titled "On Being a Grandparent." A quote from Sylvia Earle, oceanographer. She says, "There's no greater music than the sound of my grandchildren laughing." When the news hits, the first thing you start doing is thinking about what name you want them to call you. I certainly didn't want to be called Granddaddy or Grandpa, least of all Gramps. I'm a child of the 60s. It's got to be something cool. How about G-Pa? It's slightly similar to one of my musical favorites, Gram Parsons, GP with an A on the end, and it's got a hip modern ring to it with the hyphenation like J-Lo or Ice-T or P. Diddy. I'm grabbing at straws now. What happens is when those little angels snuggle in your arms and melt your heart for the first time, everything about you goes right out the window. They can call you anything they please, and you will become that. If you're blessed enough to be a grandparent, you know what I'm talking about. I have 4 beautiful grandchildren, 2 of whom are little girls. I never knew how much love an old heart could hold. It's not that I love them any more than I did their mama or daddy. It's just that now I have more time, less responsibility, and an outlook that has been tried, tempered, and tamed through years of living. Whether I'm sharing half-nibbled-on carrots with little Millie, clone of my daughter, or watching amazed as Wyatt flies around dexterously on a pixelated game screen, playing Minecraft, or talking with Michael about his new middle school flame, or letting my imagination run wild with Hannah, a little master bundle of dimples, voices, and characters. Now is my time and place in life. Being around them brings back memories of my grandparents. Stories my Grandma Carter would tell us as we lay in the cool darkness of the farmhouse bedroom. Like Peasy and Beansy, the tale of 2 young girls. One who was kind and benevolent, the other mean and malevolent. A tale designed to impress upon me how to be and how not to be. Or the one about the Cattymount, South Georgia for mountain lion, that terrorized the Strickland farmhouse one night when Grandma's older brother was just a baby. Says she, he was big. He ran circles round and round that house. Then he'd stop, stand on his hind legs, let out a scream, and scratch at the windows. Ain't no going to sleep after that one, Grandma. I used to go fishing with Daddy and his daddy, Granddaddy Rab, early in the morning on a cypress stump lake in Stark, Florida. They did most of the fishing while I sat in the boat, letting red wigglers wriggle around on my bare knees. Granddaddy's wife, Ida, was quick with a hug and a smile. I still remember the sights and smells of their house in Stark. The knickknacks, biscuit dough, Pepsi-Colas, and stale cigarette smoke. I wish I could go back again. Having grandchildren reminds me also of the roles my parents played in the lives of my young children. The pure delight on both of their faces while my son Connor sat on Daddy's knee as he sang Shoe Fly and Animal Fair. The countless hours of doting attention Mama gave my daughter Megan as she introduced her to art, dressing up, and South Georgia cooking. Being a grandparent is the closest thing to magic that I've found. Much like sprinkles of fairy dust on a child's eyes and ears, with kisses, hugs, and smiles we smother them. With stories and traditions we raise them. With undying love we cherish them. I know because I remember. Now it's my turn.
Yeah.
But that's kind of it. It's magical.
Amen.
It's magical, and if you fortunate enough to get there, you'll see what I'm talking about. And I like what you said. There ain't no more pleasure than getting down in the dirt with a dinky tractor and going. That's it. Yeah, and just to do it. You got to do it, though. You know, I feel like I fall short of that sometimes. Two of my grandchildren are over in Patterson, and I don't see them enough as I should. And because I'm always on the go on the weekends, playing music, and but they just if you leave them alone, they just grow up quickly, and the magic is there, but you got to be there too.
Yeah.
Well, we sure enjoyed this episode.
No, it was great to be with you guys again, and with no constraints.
Yeah.
That's all right.
And we probably wandered onto some bit of thin ice maybe over the last hour and a bit, but
well,
if that is sealed off and you can't go there, that's a shame. You have to go on thin ice once in a while.
Our audience tend to be very supportive, and they'll probably watch this while they're watching it going. Can't overuse that enough. It's a good sound. It makes you feel kind of good, too, when you do it. But we appreciate y'all, as always, and hope you'll stop by again. We do this twice a month on YouTube and Caution Light Media on YouTube, and available on all other podcast platforms.
And check us out on Patreon.
Patreon only costs $5, and you get a monthly episode there called The Deep End. It goes a little more playful, a little more evocative, and it's only $5. You can see us cuss on that one if you'd like. And there's certainly some nice swag prizes and stuff available to you on that one as well. So we thank you once again from Ian Dunlop, from Sean Clark, and Uncle Dave Griffin. See you next time.
See ya.
When the cold black water finds its way across through your veins, just might see your face.